A Werewolf Shifter Romance, written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. The Cage of Duty. Luna Blackwood stared at the white dress hanging in her cramped bedroom, its pristine fabric a mockery of everything she felt inside. 3 days. 3 days until she would walk down the aisle to marry Marcus Grayson, a man she barely knew, in a ceremony that felt more like a funeral than a celebration. "Luna, get down here this instant." The shrill voice of her Aunt Sarah cut through the morning silence like a blade. Luna winced, her fingers trembling as she touched the bruise hidden beneath her long sleeves. Another reminder of what happened when she dared to question the arrangements made for her life. 13 years. 13 years since the car accident that took her parents when she was just 10 years old. 13 years of living under Sarah's iron fist, being told she was nothing more than a burden, a mouth to feed, a responsibility no one wanted. The memory of that night still haunted her dreams. The screech of tires, the sound of metal crushing metal, her father's desperate shout of her name before everything went silent. Sarah had arrived at the hospital with documents already prepared, claiming custody before Luna even understood what was happening. "Your parents left you with nothing," Sarah had said coldly. "Be grateful I'm willing to take you in." "Coming, Aunt Sarah," Luna called back, her voice barely above a whisper. She had learned long ago that speaking too loudly only brought more pain. As she descended the creaking stairs of the small house on the outskirts of Millbrook, Luna caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. Pale skin that never seemed to tan, dark hair that fell in waves she could never quite tame, and eyes so green they sometimes seemed to glow in certain light. Her mother's eyes, Sarah always said with disgust, as if it were a disease Luna had inherited. The house itself felt like a prison. Small windows that barely let in light. Rooms that smelled of mothballs and disappointment. Walls covered with pictures of people Luna didn't recognize. Sarah's real family, the ones who mattered. Luna's own parents had been erased from this place as if they had never existed. "You look terrible," Sarah snapped as Luna entered the kitchen. The older woman's gray hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her thin lips pressed into their permanent disapproving line. "How do you expect to marry into the Grayson family looking like some wild creature?" Luna bit back the words that wanted to spill out. She had never asked to marry Marcus Grayson. She had never asked for any of this, but she had learned that her wants meant nothing in this house. "I'm sorry," she whispered, accepting the cup of bitter tea Sarah thrust at her. The same tea she had been forced to drink every morning since she hit puberty. "For your health," Sarah always said, though Luna couldn't understand why it made her feel so drained afterward. The liquid was always lukewarm, with an aftertaste that made her stomach churn. "The Graysons are powerful people in this town," Sarah continued, her voice taking on that calculating tone Luna had grown to fear. "This marriage will secure your future. You should be grateful I found someone willing to take you on. Do you have any idea how difficult it was to arrange this? A girl with no family name, no dowry, no prospects. Grateful." Luna almost laughed at the absurdity. How could she be grateful for a life that felt like a prison? How could she be grateful for a future that felt like someone else's dream? Marcus Grayson was handsome enough, she supposed. Tall, blonde, with the kind of confident smile that suggested he had never been told no in his entire life. But when he looked at her, she saw nothing in his blue eyes. No warmth, no interest, no affection. She was simply a transaction to him, a box to be checked off his list of obligations. As she sipped the terrible tea, fragments of last night's dream flickered through her mind, golden eyes in the darkness. A voice calling her name, deep and rough like velvet over steel. The sensation of running through a forest, her bare feet somehow knowing exactly where to step. And strangest of all, the feeling that she belonged there among the trees and shadows, as if the wilderness was calling her home. "Are you listening to me?" Sarah's sharp voice cut through her reverie. "Yes, Aunt Sarah. The final dress fitting is this afternoon. Do not embarrass me. The Graysons are already having second thoughts about this arrangement." Sarah's eyes narrowed dangerously, though I can't imagine why. "You're getting far more than you deserve. A roof over your head, a husband with money, security for the rest of your life." Luna nodded mutely, though her heart pounded with a mixture of hope and terror. Second thoughts? Did that mean there was a chance this nightmare could end? But even as the thought crossed her mind, she knew it was foolish. There was nowhere for her to go, no one who would take her in. She had no money, no skills that anyone would value. Sarah had made sure of that, keeping her isolated from the world beyond these walls, never allowing her to work or make friends or build any kind of life for herself. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of preparations. Sarah bustling around, making phone calls, arranging flowers, acting every inch the proud guardian preparing for her ward's wedding. To anyone watching, it might have looked like love and care. Luna knew better. Every smile was calculated, every gesture designed to maintain the facade that this was a loving family celebrating a joyous occasion. As afternoon approached, something strange began to happen. The tea's usual lethargy seemed to be wearing off faster than normal. Luna felt more alert, more aware of her surroundings, and with that awareness came something else, a restlessness she had never experienced before, as if her very skin was too tight for her body. Standing in the dress shop while the seamstress pinned the hem of her wedding gown, Luna caught sight of herself in the three-way mirror. The woman staring back looked like a stranger. Beautiful, yes, but hollow. Empty, like a doll dressed up for someone else's pleasure. Perfect, Sarah declared, though her smile never reached her eyes. Marcus will be pleased. The Grayson family has very particular standards, and we can't afford to disappoint them. But as the words left her aunt's mouth, Luna felt something shift deep inside her chest. A warmth that started in her core and spread outward, filling her with an energy she had never known. For just a moment, her reflection seemed to shimmer, and she could have sworn her eyes flashed with an inner light. "Did you see that?" she whispered to the seamstress. "See what, dear?" Luna blinked, and her reflection was normal again. Just tired green eyes and a pale face. She must have imagined it. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the restlessness grew stronger. Every sound seemed amplified. The creak of the house settling, the rustle of leaves outside her window, even Sarah's snoring from down the hall. And underneath it all, she could have sworn she heard something else, a howling that seemed to call to something deep in her soul. Unable to stay still any longer, Luna slipped out of bed and moved to her window. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, casting everything in silver light. As she stared up at it, that strange warmth filled her again. Stronger this time. Her skin tingled as if electricity was running through her veins. The forest beyond Millbrook stretched endlessly into the darkness, and for the first time in her life, Luna felt the overwhelming urge to run toward it, to disappear into those shadows and never look back. Tomorrow, she would marry Marcus Grayson. Tomorrow, her life as she knew it would end. But tonight, for the first time in 13 years, Luna Blackwood felt truly awake. And somewhere in the distance, that howling called to her again, promising freedom she had never dared to dream of. Chapter 2. Eyes of Gold. The clock on Luna's nightstand read 2:47 a.m. when she finally gave up on sleep. The restlessness that had been building all day now felt like fire in her veins, demanding movement, demanding escape. Without thinking, she pulled on jeans and a sweater, her hands moving with a certainty that surprised her. The house creaked as she crept down the stairs, but Sarah's snoring continued uninterrupted. Luna had memorized every sound this old house made during her years of careful navigation, trying to avoid her aunt's wrath. Tonight, those skills served a different purpose. The cool night air hit her face as she slipped out the back door, and immediately she felt better, more alive. The moon seemed impossibly bright, casting silver shadows across the yard and into the forest beyond. That strange pulling sensation in her chest grew stronger, urging her toward the tree line. She had never been in the woods alone before. Sarah had always forbidden it, claiming it was dangerous, full of wild animals and worse things that hunted in the darkness. But as Luna's bare feet touched the forest floor, she felt no fear, only a sense of coming home. The deeper she went, the stronger the pull became. Her feet seemed to know the path, avoiding roots and stones with an instinctive grace she had never possessed before. Branches parted for her, as if welcoming an old friend, and the night sounds of the forest felt like a symphony meant just for her ears. She had been walking for perhaps 20 minutes when she heard it, a low growl that should have sent her running back toward safety. Instead, Luna froze, her heart pounding not with fear but with something else entirely. Recognition. You shouldn't be out here alone. The voice came from the shadows ahead, deep and rough, exactly like the one from her dreams. Luna's breath caught as a figure stepped into a patch of moonlight, and she found herself staring into the golden eyes that had haunted her sleep. He was tall, easily 6.5 feet, with dark hair that looked like he had been running his hands through it. His face was all sharp angles and hard lines, beautiful in a dangerous way that made her pulse quicken, but it was his eyes that held her captive. Amber gold that seemed to glow with inner fire. Luna started to speak, then realized she had no explanation for being here. How could she tell this stranger that something had called to her, that her very soul seemed to recognize this place? "You're bleeding," he said, taking a step closer. His nostrils flared slightly, as if he was scenting the air. Luna looked down at her hands and saw thin scratches from branches she hadn't even noticed catching her skin. "It's nothing," she whispered. But even as she said it, she felt oddly weak. Without warning, he was beside her, moving with inhuman speed. His fingers caught her wrist, and the moment his skin touched hers, Luna gasped. Heat shot up her arm and straight to her heart, followed by the strangest sensation, as if something inside her was recognizing something inside him. "What?" she breathed, but the word died as she watched the scratches on her hand begin to heal. The skin knitted itself together, leaving no trace of injury behind. "Impossible," the stranger muttered, his golden eyes widening. His grip on her wrist tightened, not painfully, but as if he was afraid she might disappear. "You're human. You shouldn't be able to..." "Able to what?" Luna tried to pull her hand away, but he held firm. "What's happening to me? Who are you?" "My name is Kai," he said, his voice rough with something that might have been wonder. "Kai Shadowclaw, and you, little rabbit, are in more danger than you know." The nickname should have offended her, but instead it sent warmth spreading through her chest. Danger from what? Kai's eyes scanned the forest around them, and Luna noticed how alert he was, how every muscle in his body seemed coiled for action. "From me, for starters. You have no idea what you've stumbled into." "Then tell me," Luna said, surprising herself with her boldness. Something about this man made her feel brave in a way she had never experienced before. "Tell me why I felt like I had to come here tonight. Tell me why I know your voice even though we've never met." Kai stared at her for a long moment, his golden eyes searching her face. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because you're my mate." Luna laughed, though there was no humor in it. "That's impossible. I'm getting married in 2 days to Marcus Grayson. I'm human. I don't even know what you're talking about." "Marcus Grayson?" Kai's expression darkened, and for a moment Luna caught a glimpse of something wild and dangerous in his eyes. "The Alpha's son from Moonstone Pack?" "Alpha? Pack?" Luna shook her head. "You're not making any sense." Kai released her wrist and stepped back, running both hands through his dark hair. "Of course you don't know. They've kept you in the dark, haven't they? Fed you suppressants to keep your wolf dormant." "My what?" Luna's voice rose, and immediately Kai pressed a finger to her lips. "Quiet," he hissed. "Sound carries in these woods, and we're not alone out here." But Luna was beyond caring about discretion. Everything he was saying sounded like madness, but deep in her bones, she felt the truth of it. "You're telling me I'm some kind of werewolf? That's ridiculous. Look at me," Kai commanded, and something in his voice made her obey instantly. His eyes began to glow brighter, and she watched in fascination and terror as his canine teeth elongated into fangs. "Does this look ridiculous to you?" Luna stumbled backward, her heart pounding. But even as fear coursed through her, that strange recognition grew stronger. This felt right. He felt right, in a way that nothing else in her life ever had. "This is crazy," she whispered. "I'm supposed to marry Marcus. My aunt arranged everything. I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice," Kai said, his features returning to normal. "The question is whether you're brave enough to make it." "I'm not brave," Luna said automatically. It was what Sarah had always told her. that she was weak, timid, nothing special. Kai moved closer again, and this time Luna didn't retreat. You're in the middle of Shadowclaw territory at 3 a.m, alone, because something inside you called you here. That doesn't sound like cowardice to me. His hand came up to cup her cheek, and Luna leaned into the touch without thinking. I don't understand what's happening to me. Your wolf is awakening, he said softly. The suppressants are wearing off, probably because of the full moon. Your body is fighting to be what it was always meant to be. And what's that? Mine, he said. And the possessive word sent heat shooting straight through her core. My mate, my equal, my other half. Luna closed her eyes, trying to process everything he was telling her. When she opened them again, Kai was watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. I have to go back, she said reluctantly. If Sarah finds out I'm gone, she hurts you. It wasn't a question. Luna's hand automatically went to her arm, where fresh bruises lay hidden beneath her sleeve. It's not that simple. It is that simple, Kai growled. And Luna heard the barely contained rage in his voice. No one should ever lay a hand on you. You don't understand. I have nowhere else to go. No money, no skills, nothing. You have me, he said simply. The words hung between them, a promise and a challenge all at once. Luna felt tears prick her eyes because for the first time in her life, someone was offering her a choice. A real choice. I have to think, she whispered. Kai nodded, though she could see the struggle in his expression. I'll walk you back to the edge of the forest. But Luna, he caught her hand again. Don't marry him. Whatever they've told you, whatever they've made you believe about yourself, it's all lies. You're meant for something so much greater than being some bastard's trophy wife. As they walked back through the trees, Luna's mind raced. Everything Kai had told her should have sounded insane, but it explained so much. The dreams, the restlessness, the way she had always felt like she was living someone else's life. At the forest's edge, Kai stopped. Promise me you'll think about what I said. Luna looked back toward her aunt's house, then at the golden-eyed man who claimed to be her mate. I promise. And she was halfway across the yard when she heard his voice carried on the wind. I'll be waiting for you, Luna, however long it takes. Luna slipped back into the house as quietly as she had left. But as she climbed the stairs, she noticed a light still on in the kitchen. Her heart sank, expecting to find Sarah waiting with fury and punishment. Instead, she found her aunt standing at the counter, staring at the cup of bitter tea she prepared every morning. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she held the ceramic mug, and for a moment, her harsh features looked almost regretful. Aunt Sarah? Luna whispered from the doorway. Sarah startled, nearly dropping the cup. When she turned, Luna was surprised to see something that looked almost like tears in her aunt's eyes. You should be sleeping, Sarah said quickly, her voice not quite as sharp as usual. Tomorrow is an important day. I couldn't sleep, Luna admitted, watching her aunt carefully. There was something different about Sarah tonight. Something vulnerable that Luna had never seen before. Sarah nodded slowly, then looked back at the teacup in her hands. For a long moment she seemed to struggle with something internal. Her fingers tightened around the handle, and Luna could have sworn she saw her aunt's lips move in what might have been a prayer. Sarah? Luna took a step closer. Is everything all right? Everything is... Sarah began, then stopped. She looked at Luna with an expression that was almost desperate. Everything is as it has to be. Without another word, she set the cup on the counter and hurried past Luna toward the stairs, leaving behind the scent of herbs and something else, something that smelled suspiciously like tears. Luna stared at the abandoned teacup, her newly awakened senses picking up the complex mixture of ingredients. And for the first time, she wondered if her aunt's cruelty might be hiding something else entirely. Something that looked remarkably like a heartbreaking. Chapter 3. The Storm. Within Luna barely slept for the remaining hours until dawn. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw golden flames and felt the phantom touch of Kai's hand on her cheek. By the time Sarah's shrill voice called her for breakfast, she felt like she was vibrating out of her own skin. You look terrible, Sarah announced as Luna stumbled into the kitchen. What's wrong with you? You're getting married tomorrow, not attending a funeral. Tomorrow. The word hit Luna like a physical blow. In all the chaos of meeting Kai, she had somehow forgotten that her wedding was no longer 3 days away. But one. I'm fine, Luna lied, accepting the bitter tea with hands that trembled slightly. But as she lifted the cup to her lips, the smell hit her like a slap. Herbs she couldn't identify, but underneath them something chemical, medicinal, wrong. Suppressants, Kai had said, to keep your wolf dormant. Drink it, Sarah ordered sharply, noticing Luna's hesitation. Luna forced herself to take a sip, but immediately her stomach rebelled. The liquid that had always tasted bitter now seemed toxic, burning her throat on the way down. She doubled over, coughing. What's wrong with you? Sarah demanded. But there was something in her voice that wasn't quite concern. Fear, maybe. I think I'm getting sick, Luna gasped, setting the cup down with shaking hands. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she stared at the barely touched tea. You need to finish that. It's important for your health. I can't. It makes me feel worse. Then you'll drink it anyway. Sarah's voice turned cold and dangerous. You ungrateful little bitch. Do you have any idea what I've sacrificed for you? The things I've done to keep you safe and secure? Luna stared at her aunt, really seeing her for the first time. The calculating gleam in her pale eyes, the way her mouth twisted when she spoke about sacrifice. What things? Nothing you need to worry about, Sarah said quickly. But she was already moving toward the cabinet where she kept her phone. I'm calling Dr. Morrison. You need to be healthy for tomorrow. The name sent a chill down Luna's spine. Dr. Morrison had been giving her shots since she was 13, claiming they were vitamins. But now, with her mind clearer than it had been in years, she remembered how weak and sick those shots always made her feel. No, Luna said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. No doctors. Sarah spun around, her face flushing with anger. You don't get to tell me no. You're nothing without me. Do you understand? Nothing. I saved you from the streets when your pathetic parents died, and this is how you repay me? By marrying a stranger for your benefit? The slap came so fast, Luna didn't see it coming. Her cheek exploded with pain, and she stumbled backward, tasting blood where her teeth cut her lip. How dare you? Sarah hissed. Marcus Grayson is a good catch. Better than anything a worthless orphan like you deserves. But as Sarah raised her hand for another blow, something extraordinary happened. Luna's vision sharpened, and time seemed to slow. She could see every line on her aunt's face, smell her fear sweat, hear her elevated heartbeat. Without conscious thought, Luna caught Sarah's wrist in an iron grip. Don't, Luna said quietly, and her voice carried a new authority that made Sarah's eyes widen with shock. Don't ever hit me again. Sarah tried to pull away, but Luna's grip was unbreakable. They stood frozen for a moment, staring at each other, before Luna released her aunt's wrist and stepped back. What's happening to you? Sarah whispered, cradling her wrist. Luna didn't answer because she didn't know. All she knew was that the fog that had surrounded her mind for years was lifting, and with it came a strength she had never possessed before. The storm that had been threatening all morning finally broke just after lunch, sending sheets of rain against the windows and trapping Luna inside with her increasingly agitated aunt. Sarah had been making phone calls all day, speaking in hushed, urgent tones that she thought Luna couldn't hear. But Luna could hear everything now. Every whispered word, every creak of the floorboards, every scratch of branches against the house. It was overwhelming and exhilarating at the same time. The Morrison boy will be here within the hour, Sarah announced, hanging up her latest call. He's going to give you something to help with your condition. What condition? The one that's making you act like a wild animal, Sarah snapped. Fighting back, questioning everything. It's not natural. Luna laughed, and the sound was sharper than she intended. Natural? You've been drugging me for years, and you want to talk about what's natural? Sarah's face went white. I don't know what you think you know, but you're wrong. Everything I've done has been for your own good. Whose good, really? Luna moved closer, and she noticed how Sarah instinctively stepped back. Mine or yours? How much are the Graysons paying you for this marriage? You're being ridiculous. Am I? Then why are you so desperate to drug me into compliance? What are you so afraid I'll discover? The afternoon wore on, and Luna noticed something strange happening. Sarah kept glancing at the clock, then at the front door, her agitation growing with each passing hour. When 4 o'clock came and went with no sign of Dr. Morrison, Sarah began pacing. "Where is he?" she muttered, checking her phone for the 10th time. "He should have been here by now." By 5 o'clock, Sarah was openly wringing her hands, all pretense of control abandoned. She tried calling Dr. Morrison's office repeatedly, but got only voicemail. "Something's wrong," Sarah said, more to herself than to Luna. "He's never late. Never." Luna watched her aunt's growing panic with fascination. This was a side of Sarah she had never seen before. Genuinely frightened, almost desperate. "Maybe he got caught in the storm," Luna suggested. "No," Sarah said quickly. "No, he would have called. He always calls." She stopped pacing and stared at Luna with an expression that was almost protective. "You haven't left the house today, have you? You haven't been outside? I've been trapped in here with you all day," Luna replied, confused by the strange turn in conversation. Something flickered across Sarah's face. Relief, maybe, mixed with an emotion Luna couldn't identify. "Good. That's good. Sarah, what's going on? What are you so afraid of?" Before Sarah could answer, a knock at the door interrupted them. Luna's enhanced hearing picked up a familiar heartbeat, steady and strong, and her pulse quickened in response. "That's probably Dr. Morrison now," Sarah said, moving toward the front door. But as she reached for the handle, she paused, her hand trembling slightly. "Luna, go upstairs. Now." "Why?" "Just do it." Sarah's voice cracked with something that sounded almost like panic. "Please, just go upstairs and stay there until I call for you." Luna stared at her aunt, seeing something in her expression that she had never seen before. Fear, yes, but underneath it, something that looked remarkably like genuine concern. "Sarah," Luna said softly, "are you trying to protect me?" Sarah's face crumpled for just a moment before she forced her mask back into place. "Don't be ridiculous. I'm trying to protect this family's reputation. Now go upstairs." But Luna was already there, her new speed surprising them both. Through the peephole, she could see a figure standing on the porch. But it wasn't the elderly doctor she expected. It was Kai, soaked from the rain, and looking like he was ready for war. "It's not the doctor," Luna said, her hand on the doorknob. "Then who?" Sarah began, but Luna was already opening the door. Kai's golden eyes immediately found hers, and she saw relief flood his features. "Thank God," he breathed. "I felt your distress through the bond." "Are you hurt? Bond?" Sarah's voice rose to a screech behind them. "What bond? Who is this man?" Luna stepped back to let Kai inside, water dripping from his dark hair and leather jacket. In the confines of the small house, he looked enormous and dangerous, like a predator barely contained. "This is Kai Shadowclaw," Luna said, feeling a strange pride in speaking his name. "And he's her mate," Kai finished, his eyes never leaving Sarah's face. "Though I'm guessing you already knew that, didn't you?" Sarah's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "That's impossible. She's human. She's marrying Marcus Grayson tomorrow. She's a werewolf," Kai said calmly. "And you've been poisoning her for years to keep her wolf suppressed. The question is why." "I have no idea what you're talking about," Sarah said. But her voice shook. Kai took a step closer, and Luna could feel the barely contained power radiating from him. "Her parents didn't die in a car accident, did they? They were murdered. By who, Sarah? And why?" "Stop," Sarah whispered, backing toward the kitchen. "You don't know what you're dealing with. If they find out she's alive, if they discover what she really is—" "What I really am," Luna demanded. "What are you talking about?" Sarah's face crumpled, and for the first time in Luna's memory, she looked truly afraid. "Your father wasn't just any werewolf, Luna. He was the last of the moon-blessed bloodline. And your mother, she was supposed to be the bridge between our world and theirs." "Whose world?" Kai demanded. "The old magic," Sarah whispered. "The power that existed before the pacts, before the territories. Luna carries that bloodline, that power, and there are those who would kill to possess it, and others who would kill to see it destroyed forever. Luna felt the world tilt around her as the pieces began to fall into place. The marriage to Marcus would bind your power to his pack permanently, Sarah finished. Make you controllable. Safe. Safe for who? Kai's voice was deadly quiet. Sarah looked between them, tears streaming down her face. For everyone. You have no idea what she's capable of when her power fully awakens. What happened to her parents will seem like nothing compared to what's coming. As if summoned by her words, the lights in the house began to flicker, and Luna felt something wild and untamed stirring in her chest. Power that had been dormant for years was fighting to break free, and she wasn't sure she could control it. Luna, Kai said softly, reaching for her hand. Look at me. She turned to face him, and immediately the chaos in her mind quieted. His touch anchored her, made the overwhelming sensations manageable. Whatever you are, whatever power you carry, it doesn't scare me, he said firmly. You're not alone in this anymore. Outside, thunder crashed overhead, but Luna barely heard it. All she could focus on was the golden-eyed man who looked at her like she was something precious and powerful instead of something to be controlled. For the first time in her life, she felt like she might actually have a choice in her own destiny. What happens now? She asked. Kai's smile was fierce and protective. Now, we figure out how to keep you safe until you're strong enough to claim what's rightfully yours. The storm raged on outside, but Luna no longer felt afraid. She felt ready to fight. Chapter 4. Claiming Hearts. The cabin was nothing like Luna had expected. Hidden deep in Shadowclaw territory, it was rustic but comfortable, with warm wood walls and a stone fireplace that cast dancing shadows across the room. Kai had brought her here after Sarah's revelations, claiming she needed somewhere safe to process everything she had learned. This is where I come when I need to think, Kai explained, lighting the fire with practiced ease. No one else knows about it. We won't be disturbed. Luna stood by the window, watching the storm rage outside. Her reflection stared back at her, but she barely recognized the woman she saw. Her eyes seemed brighter, more alive, and there was something wild in her expression that hadn't been there before. I can't marry Marcus tomorrow, she said quietly. No, Kai agreed from behind her. You can't. She turned to face him, taking in the way the firelight played across his sharp features. But if I don't, what happens? Sarah said there are people who want to kill me for what I am. Then we make sure they can't find you. And my aunt? Kai's expression darkened. Your aunt has been complicit in keeping you prisoner for 13 years. Whatever her motivations, she doesn't get to decide your fate anymore. Luna moved closer to the fire, needing its warmth to chase away the chill that had settled in her bones. Tell me about this mate bond you mentioned. Is it real? As real as breathing, Kai said, settling into the chair across from her. When werewolves find their true mate, there's an instant recognition, a pull that can't be denied or ignored. Is that what I felt in the forest? That electricity when you touched me? Yes. His golden eyes met hers. You felt it too. It wasn't a question, but Luna nodded anyway. I've never felt anything like it before. Like my whole body came alive for the first time. The bond strengthens when both parties accept it. Kai continued, his voice carefully neutral. But it has to be freely chosen. I won't force this on you, Luna. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. Luna studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. But all she saw was sincerity and a carefully controlled longing that made her heart race. What about you? She asked. Do you want this bond? Kai was quiet for so long that Luna thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. I've been waiting for you my entire life. I'm 32 years old and I had started to think I would never find my mate. Then you stumbled into my territory, and everything changed. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. But wanting something and having the right to take it are two different things. You've been controlled and manipulated your whole life. The last thing you need is another man telling you what you should do. Luna felt something warm unfurl in her chest at his words. Here was a man who could easily overpower her, who claimed she belonged to him by supernatural law, and yet he was giving her the choice her aunt had never offered. "What's Marcus like?" she asked suddenly. Kai's expression grew cold. "Entitled. Arrogant. He treats women like possessions to be collected." He paused, then added reluctantly, "But he's not evil. Just empty. He would never understand what you are, never appreciate the gift of your power." "Do you? Do I what? Understand what I am. Appreciate my power." Luna moved closer, drawn by an invisible force. "Because I don't even understand it myself." Kai stood as she approached, and suddenly they were only inches apart. Luna could feel the heat radiating from his body, could hear his heart beating in perfect rhythm with her own. "You're moon-blessed," he said softly. "It means you carry the original magic, from before the packs divided territories and created hierarchies. Your power isn't bound by the same rules that govern the rest of us." "What kind of power?" Instead of answering with words, Kai reached out and took her hand. The moment their skin connected, Luna gasped. Images flooded her mind. Wolves running under moonlight, ancient rituals performed in sacred groves, magic that could heal or destroy with equal ease. "You could unite the packs," Kai whispered. "End the territorial wars that have been raging for decades. Bring peace to our world. Or destroy it completely," Luna said, pulling her hand away as the visions faded. "Sarah was right to be afraid. Fear isn't the answer," Kai said firmly. "Your parents died because someone wanted to control your power before you could learn to use it properly. But you're not a child anymore, Luna. You're strong enough to choose your own path." A sudden crash of thunder made them both look toward the window. But it wasn't the storm that caught Luna's attention. Through the rain, she could see lights moving through the forest. "Someone's coming," she said. Kai was beside her instantly, his body tense with protective energy. Multiple vehicles, at least 6 people. His eyes began to glow with inhuman light. "They found us." "Who? Sarah?" "No." Kai's voice was grim. "Moonstone Pack. Marcus's people." Luna's blood turned to ice. "What do they want?" "You," came a familiar voice from the front porch. "They want you, little Luna." The door burst open without ceremony, and Marcus Grayson stepped inside, shaking rain from his expensive coat. He was exactly as Luna remembered, tall, blonde, handsome in a cold, classical way. But now she could see things she had missed before. The calculation in his blue eyes, the way he moved like a predator stalking prey. Behind him stepped another figure that made Luna's breath catch. Sarah, but not the broken woman she had left at the house. This Sarah moved with purpose, her eyes scanning the cabin with the practiced gaze of someone familiar with supernatural security. "How did you know where to find us?" Luna demanded. Sarah's expression was carefully neutral, but Luna caught something in her eyes. A flicker of knowledge that went deeper than mere concern. "There are only 3 safe houses in Shadowclaw territory," Sarah said quietly. "I've known about them for a very long time." Kai's eyes narrowed dangerously. "How would a human know about our safe houses?" "The same way a human would know about mate bonds," Sarah replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "Or moon-blessed bloodlines, or suppressant potions that actually work." Luna felt a chill of realization. "You're not just human, are you?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, then sighed deeply. "I told you before. There are things you don't understand. Things I've done to keep you safe." She looked around the cabin with obvious familiarity. "I helped design the wardstones that protect this place 30 years ago." "Wardstones?" Kai stepped forward, his voice tight with suspicion. "Carved with binding runes in the old language," Sarah said matter-of-factly. "Powered by moonstone cores and renewed every full moon. Standard protection for supernatural safe houses." She met Kai's shocked gaze. "Did you really think a ordinary human could have hidden a moon-blessed child for 13 years without help?" "Hello, darling," Marcus interjected, his smile never reaching his eyes. "Ready for our wedding tomorrow?" Kai moved to place himself between Luna and Marcus, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "She's under my protection." "Your protection?" Marcus laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. "She's my fiancée, my property, as of tomorrow." "I'm not your property," Luna said, stepping out from behind Kai. I'm not anyone's property. Marcus's smile faltered slightly. Of course not, darling. Poor choice of words. But you are my intended bride, and your aunt is very worried about you. Running off with strange men the night before your wedding? Very poor form. My aunt drugged me for years to keep me compliant, Luna shot back. Forgive me if I don't trust her judgment. Drugged? Marcus looked genuinely surprised, then turned to Sarah with a frown. You said the suppressants were vitamins, that she needed them for her health. Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The girl needed to be protected until she came of age. The methods were necessary. You knew, Luna realized, staring at her aunt with growing horror. All this time you knew exactly what you were doing to me. Every potion was precisely measured, Sarah said quietly. Every dose calculated to keep your power dormant without causing permanent damage. Do you think an ordinary human could have managed such delicate magical chemistry? The revelation hit Luna like a physical blow. You're a witch. I'm a guardian, Sarah corrected, bound by ancient oaths to protect the moon-blessed line, even if it means breaking my own heart to do it. Marcus looked between them, confusion clear on his handsome features. I thought you deserved a normal life, a safe life. Safe for who? Kai demanded. You or her? Both, Marcus snapped. Do you have any idea what happens to moon-blessed wolves who can't control their power? They go mad. They become monsters that have to be put down for the safety of everyone around them. Luna felt like she had been slapped. Is that what you think I am? A monster? No, Marcus said quickly. No, that's exactly what I'm trying to prevent. Marry me, Luna. Let me help you control this thing inside you. Let me keep you safe by keeping her drugged and docile. Kai's voice was deadly quiet. By keeping her alive. Marcus shot back. There are wolves out there who would kill her just for what she represents. Old enemies of her bloodline who won't rest until every moon-blessed wolf is dead. And there are others who would use her power for their own ends. Kai said, Which category do you fall into, Marcus? The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Luna could feel the barely contained violence radiating from both men, and underneath it all, her own power was responding to the conflict, making the air crackle with energy. Stop, she said quietly, but her voice carried with supernatural authority that made both wolves freeze. Both of you, stop. She looked between them, seeing two very different futures laid out before her. With Marcus, she would be safe but caged, protected but powerless. With Kai, she would be free but vulnerable, loved but hunted. I need to know something, she said to Marcus. Do you love me? Really love me? Not just what you think you can make me into? Marcus hesitated just a moment too long. Love will come, Luna. Marriage first, then affection. That's how these things work in our world. Luna turned to Kai. And you? I love your strength, he said without hesitation. I love your courage, your kindness, your fire. I love the woman you are right now, not some version of you I want to create. The difference in their answers hit her like a physical blow. Marcus offered safety and control. Kai offered love and freedom. I've made my choice, Luna said, moving to stand beside Kai. Marcus's facade finally cracked, revealing the cold anger underneath. You're making a mistake, Luna. A mistake that will get you killed. Maybe, she agreed. But it will be my mistake to make. Thunder crashed overhead, and Luna felt her power surge in response to her emotions. The windows rattled, and both men stepped back as energy began to radiate from her skin. Leave, she said to Marcus, and her voice carried the weight of command that no wolf could ignore. Leave, and don't come back. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, and Luna saw something like regret in his eyes. I hope he can protect you, he said finally, because after tonight, everyone will know you've awakened, and they'll come for you. After he left, Luna collapsed into Kai's arms, the sudden drain of using her power leaving her weak. Are you all right? He asked, holding her close. I will be, she said, looking up into his golden eyes. As long as you're with me. Always, he promised, and sealed the vow with a kiss that tasted like freedom and felt like coming home. But as they held each other, neither noticed Sarah standing by the window, speaking quietly into a phone that definitely wasn't the old rotary model she kept at the house. "It's done," she whispered in a language that predated most modern tongues. "The girl has chosen freely. Prepare the convergence site, and send word to the council. The last moon blessed has awakened." Chapter 5. Secrets in Blood. Luna woke to the sound of her own screaming. The nightmare had felt so real. Golden eyes turning cold, Kai's voice telling her she was a monster, his hands pushing her away as she reached for him. But as consciousness returned, she found herself safe in his arms, his warm hand stroking her hair while he whispered soothing words. "It was just a dream," he murmured against her temple. "You're safe." But even as he comforted her, Luna could see the worry in his golden eyes. The nightmares had been getting worse since her confrontation with Marcus 3 days ago, and with them came surges of power she couldn't control. Last night, she had accidentally shattered every glass in the cabin kitchen while reliving a memory of her parents' death. "They're not just dreams," she said quietly, sitting up in the narrow bed. "They're memories, things I saw but forgot, or was made to forget." Kai's expression grew grave. "What kind of memories?" Luna closed her eyes, trying to catch the fragments before they slipped away like smoke. "The night my parents died. There were other wolves there, Kai. It wasn't an accident. Tell me, I was supposed to be asleep in the back seat, but I woke up when my father started shouting. There were eyes in the darkness, surrounding our car. And then," she shuddered, "then there was fire. So much fire." Kai's arms tightened around her. "Who were they? Could you see faces?" "No, but I heard voices. Someone saying that the bloodline had to end, that the old magic was too dangerous to survive." Luna met his gaze. "They knew what I was, Kai. They came specifically to kill my family. And they failed," Kai said fiercely. "You survived, because my parents sacrificed themselves to save me. My mother used her last breath to cast some kind of protection spell. That's why Sarah was able to hide me for so long. The magic made me invisible to anyone hunting moon-blessed wolves." A chill ran down Kai's spine. "If you're remembering now, does that mean the protection is fading?" Before Luna could answer, the sound of approaching vehicles cut through the morning air. But this time, there were too many to count, and they weren't trying to be stealthy. Kai was on his feet instantly, his body already shifting into a defensive stance. "Stay behind me," he ordered, moving toward the window. What Luna saw made her blood freeze. At least 20 vehicles surrounded the cabin, and armed figures were pouring out of them like ants from a disturbed nest. But these weren't Marcus's people. These wolves moved with military precision, dressed in black tactical gear that spoke of serious organization. "Hunters," Kai breathed, and Luna heard the terror in his voice. "What are hunters?" "Humans who know about our world. They've been trying to exterminate supernatural beings for centuries." His golden eyes met hers. "They must have sensed your power awakening." A voice amplified by a megaphone cut through the morning air. "Kai Shadowclaw, we know you're harboring the moon-blessed abomination. Send her out, and we might let you live." Luna felt her power surge in response to the word abomination, and the windows of the cabin began to vibrate with dangerous energy. "They want me to surrender?" "Over my dead body," Kai growled, his eyes beginning to glow with inhuman light. "That can be arranged," the voice called back, clearly having heard him. "You have 60 seconds to comply, or we come in shooting." Luna's mind raced. 20 armed humans against 1 werewolf, even an alpha, were impossible odds. And if they were specifically hunting moon-blessed wolves, they would have weapons designed to kill supernatural beings. "There's another way," she said suddenly. Kai looked at her sharply. "What way?" "I can feel them," Luna whispered, closing her eyes and extending her supernatural senses. "All of them. Their heartbeats, their fear, their hatred. What if I could reach into their minds?" "Luna, no." Kai grabbed her shoulders. "That kind of power, used on humans, it could drive you insane. The moon-blessed who tried it before either died or lost their minds completely." 30 seconds, the voice shouted. "I have to try," Luna said desperately. "It's the only chance we have." But before she could attempt anything, a new sound cut through the tension, the howl of approaching wolves. Lots of them, Through the back window, Luna saw shapes moving through the forest. Dozens of wolves in both human and shifted form, surrounding the hunters who had thought they were the ones laying siege. Shadowclaw pack. Kai breathed with relief. My people. But Luna's enhanced hearing picked up something else. Another group approaching from the east. Wolves with different scents, different energy patterns. There are more coming, she said. Different pack. Kai's expression grew complicated. Moonstone, Marcus. The situation outside exploded into chaos as 3 different factions found themselves in unexpected proximity. Gunshots rang out as the hunters realized they were surrounded, and inhuman roars answered as wolves began to shift and attack. We have to get out of here, Kai said, grabbing Luna's hand. This is about to become a war zone. But as they moved toward the back door, it burst open to reveal a figure Luna hadn't expected to see. Sarah stood in the doorway, but she looked nothing like the mousy woman who had raised her. Her eyes glowed with silver light, and power radiated from her small frame like heat from a forge. Hello, Luna, Sarah said, and her voice carried harmonics that spoke of ancient magic. It's time you learned the truth about your family. Sarah? Luna stared at her aunt in shock. What? How? I'm not your aunt, Sarah said simply. I'm your grandmother, your father's mother, and the last of the old guardian bloodline. The revelation hit Luna like a physical blow. That's impossible. You're human. I'm a witch, Sarah corrected, bound by ancient pacts to protect the moon-blessed line. Everything I did, every lie I told, every drug I gave you, it was all to keep you alive until you were strong enough to survive what's coming. Outside, the battle was intensifying. Luna could hear Kai's pack fighting desperately against the heavily armed hunters, while Marcus's wolves seemed to be attacking both sides with equal vigor. What's coming? Luna demanded. Sarah's expression grew grave. The convergence. Every 100 years, when the moon's power reaches its peak, the barriers between our world and the spirit realm weaken. This year it happens on your 24th birthday. Tomorrow night. What does that have to do with me? You're the key, Sarah said urgently. The moon-blessed bloodline doesn't just carry power. You're literally the bridge between worlds. At the convergence, you'll either seal the barriers forever and bring peace to all supernatural beings, or you'll tear them down completely and unleash chaos that will consume both worlds. Luna felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders like a crushing burden. And if I refuse to choose, the choice will be made for you by whoever controls you at the moment of convergence. Sarah's silver eyes flicked to Kai. That's why every faction wants to claim you. The hunters want to kill you to prevent the chaos. Marcus wants to bind you to ensure you choose preservation. And Kai, I want her to choose freely, Kai said fiercely. Whatever that choice might be. Sarah studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Perhaps. But can you protect her long enough for her to grow into her full power? Because right now, she's vulnerable. Half-awakened, untrained, and about to face enemies who have been planning for this moment for decades. A new sound cut through the battle outside. The roar of motorcycle engines. Lots of them. Through the window, Luna saw yet another group arriving. These riders wore leather and moved with predatory grace that spoke of something more dangerous than ordinary wolves. Rogues, Kai breathed. How did they know? Because someone told them, Sarah said grimly. Someone who wants chaos at the convergence, who would profit from the barriers being torn down completely. Luna felt a chill of premonition. Who? Before Sarah could answer, the wall of the cabin exploded inward. Through the smoking hole stepped a figure that made Luna's blood turn to ice. Dr. Morrison. But not as she had ever seen him. His elderly human facade was gone, replaced by something ancient and terrible. His skin was gray and mottled. His eyes were pits of darkness. And when he smiled, she saw rows of razor-sharp teeth. Hello, little moon-blessed, he said, in a voice like grinding stone. Ready to fulfill your destiny? Luna felt her power explode outward in response to her terror, shattering every remaining window in the cabin and sending all 3 wolves staggering backward. But the creature that had been Dr. Morrison just laughed. Yes, it hissed. Let the power flow. Let it call to every predator in 100-mile radius. Make them all come running to claim their prize. As if summoned by its words, more howls rose from the forest. Different voices, older and more terrible than any wolf Luna had ever heard. The Ancient Ones, Sarah whispered in horror. It's calling the Ancient Ones. Luna looked around at the three people who claimed to care about her fate, then at the monster advancing through the smoke and debris. Outside, a war was raging for the right to control her, and now something even worse was coming. For the first time since her awakening began, Luna understood the true scope of what she was facing. This wasn't just about her choice between Kai and Marcus, or even about her own survival. The fate of both the human and supernatural worlds hung in the balance, and she was the only one who could tip the scales. The only question was whether she would survive long enough to make that choice. Chapter 6. The Ancient Hunt. The creature that had been Doctor. Morrison advanced into the ruined cabin, and with each step, the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Luna could see her breath misting in the air as primal terror clawed at her chest. "What is that thing?" she gasped, backing toward Kai. "Wraith," Sarah said, her voice tight with fear. "Ancient spirits that feed on magical energy. They've been waiting for a moon-blessed wolf powerful enough to sustain them permanently." The Wraith's hollow eyes fixed on Luna with hungry intensity. 13 years I've been feeding you suppressants, little one. Not to weaken you, but to make your power pure. Concentrated. Perfect for consumption. You're not Dr. Morrison. Luna realized with growing horror. I consumed Morrison decades ago, the creature hissed. Wore his skin. Lived his life. All while waiting for you to ripen. And now, it raised skeletal hands that crackled with dark energy. Now I will feast. Kai moved faster than Luna's eyes could follow, shifting mid-leap into his massive black wolf form. But as his claws raked across the Wraith's chest, they passed harmlessly through spectral flesh. Foolish pup. The Wraith laughed as Kai tumbled to the floor. Physical attacks cannot harm the incorporeal. Then we fight magic with magic, Sarah declared, silver light blazing from her hands. But as her power struck the Wraith, the creature simply absorbed it, growing more solid and terrifying. Yes, it moaned in ecstasy. More power. Feed me more. Outside, the howls were getting closer. Through the shattered windows, Luna could see shapes moving through the trees that were wrong somehow. Too tall, too angular, with eyes that burned like stars in the darkness. The Ancient Ones are almost here, Sarah said desperately. Luna, you have to awaken your full power now, or we're all dead. I don't know how, Luna cried, feeling her fear and frustration building to dangerous levels. Pain, Kai said, having shifted back to human form. His golden eyes met hers with terrible understanding. Moon-blessed power awakens fully through extreme emotional trauma. That's why your parents' death triggered your first manifestation. You want me to relive that? No, the Wraith interrupted, lunging forward with supernatural speed. I want you to create new trauma. Its skeletal fingers closed around Kai's throat, and he screamed as dark energy poured into him. Luna watched in horror as the vibrant gold of his eyes began to fade to empty black. Stop, she shrieked, power exploding from her in waves that shook the entire cabin. But the Wraith's grip on Kai only tightened. Feel the pain, it whispered. Feel him dying. Feel your heart breaking. And let that agony unlock what you truly are. Luna fell to her knees as psychic agony tore through her. The mate bond she shared with Kai was being corrupted, twisted into a conduit for the Wraith's feeding. She could feel Kai's life force being drained away, could sense his consciousness fading. Please, she whispered. Please don't take him. Then give me what I want, the Wraith demanded. Give me your power willingly, and I'll make his death quick. Luna looked up at the creature holding the man she loved, then at Sarah, whose silver magic was flickering weakly. Outside, the first of the Ancient Ones had reached the cabin, beings that made the Wraith look tame by comparison. There's another way, a new voice said from the doorway. Marcus stepped through the smoke and debris, but he looked nothing like the polished businessman Luna remembered. His expensive suit was torn and bloody, his blonde hair was matted with sweat, and his blue eyes burned with desperate determination. "Marcus!" Luna gasped. "What are you doing here?" "Saving the woman I love," he said simply, and for the first time since she had met him, Luna heard real emotion in his voice. "Even if she doesn't love me back." The wraith hissed as Marcus entered its domain. "Another wolf? Your pack magic means nothing here, pup. I'm not here to fight you," Marcus said, never taking his eyes off Luna. "I'm here to offer a trade." "What kind of trade?" the wraith asked suspiciously. Marcus held up his left hand, and Luna gasped. Wrapped around his palm was a chain of silver and moonstone that pulsed with ancient power. The Grayson family has guarded this for 3 centuries. A binding chain forged by the first moon-blessed wolves. It can contain any magical being, even you. "Impossible," the wraith snarled, but Luna could see fear flickering in its hollow eyes. "Release the Shadowclaw Alpha," Marcus continued, "and I'll destroy the chain. You can feed freely without fear of being contained." "Marcus, no," Sarah cried. "That chain is one of the few weapons that can stop creatures like this." "And what good is it if everyone dies anyway?" Marcus shot back. He looked at Luna with something like tenderness. "I told you I would keep you safe. I meant it." The wraith's grip on Kai loosened slightly as it considered the offer. "Show me the chain's power first. Prove it's real." Marcus closed his eyes and spoke a word in an ancient language Luna didn't recognize. The chain blazed with silver light, and the wraith shrieked as the energy washed over it. "Yes," it hissed. "Yes, that is real power. Very well, Wolf. I accept your trade." It released Kai, who collapsed to the floor gasping. But as Marcus moved to destroy the chain, Luna felt something inside her snap into focus. The terror of almost losing Kai, the rage at being manipulated and hunted, the despair of watching good people sacrifice themselves for her. It all crystallized into something pure and terrible. "No," she said quietly, and her voice carried harmonics that made reality itself tremble. "No more trades. No more sacrifices. No more running." Luna rose to her feet, and as she did, silver light began to pour from her skin. Not the pale silver of Sarah's magic, but the brilliant, nuclear silver of a full moon at its peak. Her dark hair began to float around her face as if she were underwater, and her green eyes blazed with power that had been building for 24 years. "This ends now," she declared. The wraith spun toward her, hunger overriding caution. "Yes, give me that power." But as it lunged forward, Luna didn't retreat. Instead, she stepped into its embrace, allowing its skeletal hands to close around her throat. "Luna!" Kai shouted, trying to rise despite his weakness. "What are you doing?" Marcus demanded. Luna smiled, and in that expression was the terrible beauty of a goddess preparing for war. Learning. Power flowed between Luna and the wraith, but not in the direction the creature expected. Instead of feeding on her energy, Luna was feeding on its ancient knowledge. 13 years of suppressed memories came flooding back, along with instincts and abilities she had never known she possessed. The wraith's triumphant expression turned to horror as it realized what was happening. "Impossible! You're supposed to be the prey!" "I was never the prey," Luna said, her voice layered with otherworldly authority. "I am moon-blessed. I am the bridge between worlds. And you..." She tightened her grip on the creature's wrists. "You are trespassing." Silver fire erupted between them, and the wraith's scream shattered every piece of glass for miles around. When the light faded, only Luna remained standing, her clothes and hair untouched despite the supernatural inferno that had consumed her attacker. Outside, the Ancient One's howls suddenly cut off as if someone had thrown a switch. Through her expanded awareness, Luna could sense them retreating, fleeing from power they recognized as superior to their own. "How?" Sarah whispered in awe. Luna turned to look at her grandmother, and her eyes now held depths that spoke of cosmic understanding. "The suppressants didn't weaken my power. They compressed it, like a spring coiled tighter and tighter until the moment of release." She looked at her hands, which still glowed with residual energy. "I'm not just moon-blessed anymore. I'm something new." Kai struggled to his feet, his golden eyes wide with wonder and just a hint of healthy fear. "What are you?" Luna considered the question seriously. She could feel the barriers between worlds like gossamer threads, could sense the flow of magic through every living thing, could hear the whispered prayers of supernatural beings across 3 continents begging for peace. "I'm what I was always meant to be," she said finally. "The one who chooses." Marcus stepped forward, the binding chain still wrapped around his hand. "And what will you choose?" Luna looked at the 3 people who had shaped her journey. Sarah, who had protected her with lies and sacrifice. Marcus, who had offered her safety at the cost of freedom. And Kai, who had offered her love with no conditions attached. Tomorrow night was the convergence. Tomorrow night, she would face the choice that would reshape both worlds. But tonight, for the first time in her life, Luna Blackwood felt truly ready for whatever came next. "I'll choose love," she said, moving to Kai's side and taking his hand. "I'll choose freedom. And I'll choose to fight for a world where others can make the same choice." As if in response to her words, the moon emerged from behind the storm clouds, bathing the ruined cabin in silver light that seemed to bless her decision. The real battle was just beginning. Chapter 7. The Convergence. The ancient stone circle had been hidden deep in Shadowclaw territory for over 1,000 years, its weathered monoliths standing sentinel beneath the star-filled sky. Luna stood at its center, silver light radiating from her skin as the convergence approached its peak. Around the perimeter, representatives from every supernatural faction watched in tense silence. "Are you ready?" Kai asked softly, his golden eyes reflecting her otherworldly glow. In the hours since her awakening, he had barely left her side, as if afraid she might disappear into the cosmic forces swirling around them. "As ready as anyone can be to reshape reality," Luna replied, though her voice carried more confidence than she felt. The power coursing through her was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. She could feel the barriers between worlds growing thin, reality itself becoming malleable. Sarah approached, carrying an ancient leather tome that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. "The ritual must begin precisely at midnight," she said, her grandmother's face etched with worry. "Once it starts, there's no stopping it. Whatever choice you make will be permanent." Luna nodded, accepting the weight of destiny. Around the circle, she could see familiar faces among the crowd. Marcus stood with his remaining pack members, his blue eyes filled with resignation and something that might have been pride. The Shadowclaw pack formed a protective barrier between Luna and the other factions, their loyalty to Kai extending to his chosen mate, but it was the others that made Luna's newly awakened senses tingle with danger. Rogue wolves who saw the convergence as their chance to overthrow the established order, hunters who still believed the only solution was her death, and scattered throughout the crowd, beings that weren't quite human or wolf, ancient creatures drawn by the promise of power. 5 minutes, Sarah announced, consulting a silver pocket watch that ticked in rhythm with Luna's heartbeat. "Luna," Marcus called out, stepping forward despite the growls from several Shadowclaw wolves. "Before this begins, I need you to know something." She turned to face him, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. Gone was the calculating businessman who had wanted to control her. In his place stood a man who looked genuinely heartbroken, but determined to do the right thing. "I lied," he said simply, "when you asked if I loved you. The truth is, I've been in love with you since the moment we met, but I knew you could never love someone who wanted to cage you." Luna felt Kai tense beside her, but she placed a calming hand on his arm. "Marcus, I'm not trying to change your mind," Marcus continued quickly. "I just wanted you to know that whatever happens tonight, you're loved by more people than you realize." Before Luna could respond, the silver watch in Sarah's hand began to chime midnight. The ancient stones around the circle blazed to life with runes that hadn't glowed for a century, and the very air began to shimmer with otherworldly energy. "It's time," Sarah said. Luna moved to the center of the circle, where a pool of clear water reflected the full moon above. As she knelt beside it, the water began to glow with the same silver light that emanated from her skin. "I call upon the ancient pacts," she began, the words flowing from her lips, as if she had spoken them 1,000 times before. I invoke the right of the moon-blessed to speak for all children of the night. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every supernatural being in a 100-mile radius felt the call, their essence drawn toward the circle like iron filings to a magnet. Luna gasped as their combined power flowed through her, showing her the true scope of what she was about to decide. In her mind's eye, she saw two possible futures spreading out like branches of a vast tree. In the first, the barriers between worlds remained strong. Supernatural beings would continue to hide in shadows, living in fear of discovery, fighting endless wars over territory and resources. Humans would remain ignorant of the magic that surrounded them, but they would also remain safe from powers they couldn't understand or control. In the second, the barriers dissolved completely. Magic would flow freely into the human world, bringing wonders beyond imagination, but also chaos beyond measure. Supernatural beings would no longer need to hide, but humanity might not survive the revelation of what lurked in the darkness. "Choose," whispered a voice that seemed to come from the moon itself. "Choose the fate of two worlds." But as Luna stared into the swirling possibilities, a third option began to crystallize in her mind. It was dangerous, untested, and would require her to sacrifice something precious, but it was also the only path that honored both worlds. "I choose neither," she said aloud, her voice carrying across the circle with supernatural clarity. Shocked murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd. Sarah stepped forward, her face pale with worry. "Luna, you have to choose one or the other. Those are the only options." "No," Luna said firmly, rising from beside the pool. "I'm moon-blessed. I don't follow the old rules." She looked around at the assembled faces, human and inhuman alike. "I choose to create something new." Silver fire erupted around her as she spoke, and Luna felt her power reach a crescendo that made her previous awakening seem like a gentle breeze. But instead of directing that energy toward either of the predetermined paths, she began to weave something entirely different. "I choose balance," she declared, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated in dimensions beyond the physical. "The barriers will remain, but they will be permeable. Humans who can handle the truth will find their way to it. Supernatural beings who prove themselves worthy will be allowed to live openly among mortals." The magic fought her, trying to force her into one of the established patterns. But Luna's will was absolute, backed by the combined hope of every being who had ever dreamed of a world where they didn't have to choose between hiding and conquering. "And to ensure this balance is maintained," she continued, feeling the terrible cost of what she was about to do, "I bind myself to both worlds as their eternal guardian." "Luna, no!" Kai's anguished cry cut through the magical maelstrom. "You'll be trapped between worlds forever." She turned to look at him, memorizing his beloved face, as silver tears ran down her cheeks. "Not trapped," she said softly. "Free. Free to protect both sides, to ensure peace between them." "There has to be another way," Marcus said desperately, moving to Kai's side in their shared desperation to save her. "This is the only way that doesn't end in war or extinction," Luna replied. She looked at Sarah, seeking understanding from the one person who knew the true weight of magical sacrifice. "Tell them, grandmother. Tell them why this is necessary." Sarah's face was streaked with tears, but she nodded slowly. The moon-blessed were never meant to rule or to hide. They were meant to stand between worlds as bridges and guardians. It's what her parents died trying to achieve. Luna closed her eyes and spoke the final words of binding, feeling her essence split between two planes of existence. Part of her would remain in the physical world, able to love and be loved, to touch and be touched. But part of her would forever exist in the space between worlds, vigilant and powerful, ensuring that neither side could destroy the other. The transformation was agony and ecstasy combined. Luna felt herself expanding beyond the boundaries of flesh and bone, her consciousness touching every corner of both worlds simultaneously. But she also felt anchored by the love of those who surrounded her, their emotions keeping her tethered to humanity. When the silver fire finally faded, Luna stood transformed. She looked the same, but her eyes now held depths that spoke of cosmic awareness. Around the circle, Humans and supernatural beings alike knelt in recognition of what she had become. "Rise," she said gently, and her voice carried the authority of natural law itself. "There is no need for anyone to kneel. We are all equals in this new world." Kai approached cautiously, as if afraid she might vanish at his touch. "Are you still you?" Luna smiled, and in that expression was all the love and warmth he remembered. "I'm still me, my heart. Just more." She took his hand, and relief flooded his features as he felt her solid presence, her unchanged love for him. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Luna looked up at the moon, feeling its ancient approval of her choice. "Now we build something better. A world where love matters more than power. Where understanding conquers fear." She squeezed Kai's hand. "A world where no one has to choose between who they are and who they love." As if in response to her words, the barriers between worlds shimmered and reformed. No longer walls, but bridges. The age of hiding was over, but so was the age of conquest. The age of balance had begun. And Luna Blackwood, the last moon-blessed wolf, stood ready to guide both worlds into their uncertain but hopeful future, her heart anchored by love, and her spirit free to soar between stars. The convergence was complete. Chapter 8. Forever. Luna. 6 months later, Luna stood on the wraparound porch of the sprawling house that had become home to more lost souls than she could count. The morning sun painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, and she could hear the sounds of her unusual family beginning their day inside. "Coffee's ready," Kai called from the kitchen, his voice carrying the warmth that still made her heart skip despite everything they had been through. Luna smiled, one hand unconsciously moving to rest on her still flat stomach. The pregnancy had been a surprise, though perhaps it shouldn't have been. After the convergence, when her power had stabilized into something sustainable rather than cosmic, her body had begun to function like that of a normal werewolf again. Well, mostly normal. "The twins are restless this morning," she said, as Kai emerged with 2 steaming mugs, his golden eyes immediately drawn to her protective gesture. "They can sense the full moon approaching," he said, settling beside her on the porch swing they had installed just last month. "Sarah says moon-blessed children are always more active during celestial events." Inside the house, Luna could hear the familiar sounds of their extended family getting ready for the day. Jenny, a teenage wolf who had been abandoned by her pack for being born without the ability to shift, was helping Sarah prepare breakfast. Marcus, who had surprised everyone by asking to stay after the convergence, was likely in his study reviewing applications from supernatural beings seeking sanctuary. The house had started as just a place for Luna and Kai to build their life together, but it had quickly evolved into something more. Word had spread throughout the supernatural community about the moon-blessed guardian, who would protect anyone seeking a chance at a better life. Slowly, carefully, Luna had begun accepting those who needed refuge. "Any regrets?" Kai asked softly, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. Luna considered the question seriously. The life she lived now was nothing like what she had imagined during those terrible years with her aunt. She was responsible for maintaining the balance between 2 worlds, which meant dealing with supernatural politics, mediating disputes between species, and occasionally facing down ancient creatures who tested her resolve. But she was also free in ways she had never dreamed possible. Free to love Kai openly, to use her powers to help others, to build a family and a community based on acceptance rather than fear. "None," she said firmly, leaning into his warmth. "Though I do worry sometimes about what kind of world we're bringing the babies into. A better one than either of us grew up in," Kai assured her. "Look around, Luna. Look at what you've built." She followed his gaze across the property that had become a beacon for the lost and displaced. In the garden, she could see Dr. Elena Martinez, a human researcher who had learned about the supernatural world through her work with genetic anomalies. Elena had become their liaison to the human medical community, helping to establish secret clinics for supernatural beings who needed care. Near the tree line, a group of young wolves from various packs were training together under Marcus's supervision. The old territorial boundaries were slowly dissolving, as the new generation learned to see past the prejudices of their elders. "Speaking of building," Kai said with a grin, "Marcus wants to add another wing to the house. Something about applications tripling this month." Luna laughed. Let me guess. He has architectural plans already drawn up, complete with a nursery wing for supernatural children who need fostering. Kai's expression grew more serious. He's found his purpose here, hasn't he? We all have, Luna agreed. It had taken months for Marcus to find his place in their unconventional family, but his business acumen and natural leadership abilities had proven invaluable in organizing their growing community. The sound of a car approaching made them both look up. Luna's enhanced senses immediately identified the newcomer, a young woman, half fey by her scent, radiating fear and desperation. I'll get Sarah, Kai said, already rising. No need, Luna replied, standing and moving toward the front steps. I've got this one. The woman who emerged from the battered sedan couldn't have been more than 19, with the otherworldly beauty common to fey bloodlines but eyes that spoke of recent trauma. She hesitated at the bottom of the porch steps, clearly torn between hope and terror. Are you Luna Blackwood? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I am, Luna said gently, allowing just a hint of her power to show in her eyes. Not enough to intimidate, but enough to prove her identity. What's your name, sweetheart? Aria Nightshade. The girl's hands trembled as she spoke. My pack. They cast me out when my fey heritage manifested. Said I was an abomination, a threat to their purity. Luna felt familiar anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm and welcoming. You're not an abomination, Aria. You're exactly what you're supposed to be. She extended her hand. Would you like to come inside? We have breakfast ready, and there are others here who understand what you're going through. Tears spilled down Aria's cheeks as she climbed the steps and took Luna's offered hand. I don't have anywhere else to go. Then you're home, Luna said simply, leading her toward the door where the sounds of laughter and conversation promised acceptance and belonging. As they entered the warm, bustling kitchen, Luna caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror. 6 months ago, she had been a frightened girl with no choices and no hope. Now she saw a woman in her prime, confident and powerful, surrounded by love and purpose. Luna, Sarah called from the stove, where she was flipping pancakes with supernatural precision. Perfect timing. Breakfast is ready. The long dining table could seat 20, and this morning it was nearly full. Jenny sat between two former rogue wolves who had found stability in their community. Dr. Martinez was deep in conversation with a vampire scholar about sustainable feeding practices. Marcus was reviewing paperwork while stealing glances at a beautiful werecat named Selena who had arrived just last week. Everyone, Luna announced, her voice carrying easily through the room. I'd like you to meet Aria. She'll be staying with us. The chorus of warm greetings that followed brought fresh tears to Aria's eyes. But these were tears of relief rather than pain. Luna guided her to an empty chair and watched with satisfaction as her family, for that's what they had become, welcomed another lost soul into their fold. Later that evening, after Aria had been settled into one of the guest rooms and the house had quieted for the night, Luna found herself back on the porch with Kai. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, and she could feel her unborn children responding to its pull with gentle movements. Happy? Kai asked, settling behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. Completely, Luna said, leaning back against his chest. Though I still can't quite believe this is real sometimes. What part? The house full of supernatural refugees? The fact that you're pregnant with twins? Or that Marcus has been making eyes at a werecat all week? Luna laughed. All of it. But mostly the part where I get to wake up every morning and choose how to spend my day. Where I get to help people instead of being controlled by them. Kai's arms tightened around her. You've given that gift to all of us, you know. The freedom to choose who we want to be. Through the window, Luna could see Sarah reading bedtime stories to some of the younger residents, her grandmother's voice carrying the weight of ancient wisdom wrapped in modern kindness. In his study, Marcus was still working, but she could hear him humming, something he only did when he was truly content. The council meeting is next week, Kai reminded her gently. Are you ready? Luna nodded. The Supernatural Council was her creation, a governing body with representatives from every major species working together to establish laws and procedures for their new world. It wasn't perfect. Politics never were. But it was a start. The vampire covens have agreed to the feeding restrictions, she said, and the Fey courts have signed on to the territory sharing agreements. we're making progress. And the humans? Dr. Martinez thinks we can expand the integration program to 3 more cities next year. Slowly, carefully, but we're moving forward. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the night sounds of the forest and the distant laughter from inside the house. Luna thought about the prophecy that had shaped so much of her early life, the idea that she would either save or destroy both worlds. In the end, she had chosen to do neither and both. The worlds were still separate enough to maintain their unique qualities, but connected enough to prevent the fear and hatred that had driven so much conflict. It wasn't the dramatic ending anyone had expected, but it was better. "Luna," Kai said softly, his voice carrying a note of wonder that made her turn in his arms. "What is it?" "I can feel them," he whispered, his hand joining hers on her stomach. "The twins. Their heartbeats, their energy. They're going to be powerful." Luna smiled, feeling the truth of his words in her bones. "They're going to be loved," she corrected. "That's what matters most." As if responding to their parents' voices, the baby stirred again, and Luna felt a wash of pure contentment. Whatever challenges lay ahead, and there would be many, she would face them with Kai at her side and their children in her heart. The girl who had once been trapped in a cage of others' expectations was gone, replaced by a woman who had chosen love over fear, hope over despair, and freedom over safety. Luna Blackwood, the last moon-blessed wolf, guardian between worlds, had finally found her happily ever after. And it was only the beginning. Luna's transformation from a caged girl to a powerful guardian marks only the first chapter in a much larger story. Throughout both the human and supernatural realms, there are others like her, beings caught between worlds, struggling to embrace their true nature, while those around them demand conformity. These untold stories of awakening and courage deserve to be heard. When you choose not to engage with our content, you're silencing voices that need to be amplified. You're turning your back on characters who mirror your own journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Every person who finds strength in Luna's defiance becomes part of something greater. If her story resonated with your own battles for freedom, let us know in the comments. Your voice matters in this conversation. We're incredibly grateful you chose to spend your evening discovering Luna's path to power. Your attention is precious, and we don't take it lightly. Our library overflows with similar journeys, tales where the underestimated rise up, where love conquers control, and where ordinary people discover extraordinary destinies within themselves. Perhaps it's time to explore what other adventures await. To stay connected with these powerful narratives as they unfold, subscribe and activate notifications. We're building more than just an audience. We're creating a community of people who believe in the strength that comes from choosing your own destiny. See you in the next story, where another soul breaks free from their chains.